Hi guys, so the KBDFans Tiger Lite Gaming finally arrived and boy that was a long wait, but honestly after building this and using it for a bit, it is definitely worth it. Let's recap how I built it first and then afterwards we'll talk about the performance and such. So first things first, in the package you will get this neat carrying case which for the price of this kit is very nice. And then you will get of course the plastic case of your choosing, and I went with the solid black on mine and it actually seems to be of a great quality plastic. Then you have screws and gasket rubber pieces and more screws and the silicone feet in multiple different pouches. Then of course the brains of this build, the Venom TKL PCB and the FR4 plate. That was the only option for the Venom. I really would have hoped for different plate materials also, but FR4 is good balance. Then you will get a nice thick cable, sandwich foam and a PET film sheet. I personally did not use the film on my build since I don't want extra layers of material between the PCB and my switches, but it's quite thin, so you won't most likely face any problems using that. Okay, first off, let's prep the PCB. For usage with the Tiger Lite case, you will have to snip off the regular USB-C port with some pliers, which means you can't really upgrade the case to a metallic case in the future other than the discontinued Tiger 80, since the cases that are available use this port. But anyway, snip off the port, then snip off the daughter board. Also remove the small round plastic stickers from the screw poles, which I did not remember to get in camera. Then it is time to install the stabilizers. If you want to use the film, this is also the moment you put on the film on top of the PCB. The kit comes with cherry screw-in stabs that I did not use myself. The reason being I had an extra set of pre-looped and assembled Type Plus stabs at my disposal, but you can use the cherry ones without issues. However, they just need a bit more work to offer the best experience, since you are recommended to clip them. The last time I clipped stabs was like 5 years ago, but here is basically how to do that. See the two small prongs on the stems, snip them off, then loop the stem and put it inside the housing. Repeat many times. With the Venom TKL you also have the option to use a 7U spacebar layout, which some prefer. That I went with first as well, but I swapped to the 6.25U afterwards because I wanted to use a specific keycap set that didn't have the bottom row keys. But choose the spacebar stabilizer wire and bottom row switch positioning accordingly. Okay, after that is done, we will install most of the switches to the plate, and this is probably the most time consuming part since there are like 87 keys here. I would leave the bottom row empty at this point since it is easier to fit in the PCB this way. For the switches I had to go with my current favorites, the Geonworks. Like usually these are just a very solid and stable switch that sound really nice in most builds I've used them in. After the switches are in place, just put the sandwich foam in there. It may need some slight modification to fit properly with the 7U layout, and then just put the plate on top and press evenly so it fits nice and snug. Then you have these small recessed screws that you will use to screw the sandwich together. There are many screw locations, so stay sharp and don't miss any. I seemed to miss one while filming this, but I realized that afterwards and screwed that one in also. When the whole module is together, just slide in the small rubber gasket pieces to the prongs on the plate and the module is now fully ready to be installed to the case. Before that, however, we need to install the daughterboard to the case that we snipped off in the beginning. Also note that the kit did not come with any case foam, but you can use your own if you happen to have any. Then just install the JST cable that came with the kit to the daughterboard, install that to the PCB, then we can just pop the model in there and see that each small rubber piece rests on the correct position. Then we can just put on the top half of the case and screw it together from the back with the longer screws, and also install the round silicone feet. Then what is left is to install some keycaps. Here I went with a set of JC Studios beige set with some mint keycaps, but afterwards I have swapped to the EPBT 3000 SAT keycap set, and here is a sound test. Okay, so I think this build could really use some foam in there, but otherwise it is really nice, and small rubber gaskets provide a nice moderate even softness to the typing feel that standard tray mount doesn't do. The keyboard is also quite lightweight, which is pretty ideal if you want to carry your keyboard with you in the case that it came with, and this is mainly the reason I wanted to get this a nice lightweight keyboard that I can carry with me to the office, and one that has a TKL layout since I need this part for work purposes. But then let's talk about the tech specs and the latency measurements. The Venom TKL HE is an interesting one since when it first launched it was shipped with firmware from Rakka. That was then abandoned since Rakka was not really eager to do updates, and the board now comes straight away with the Geonworks Venom firmware, and it is configurable straight on the web driver. If you happen to have one of those older PCBs that came with Rakka's firmware, you can also upgrade the board to use Geon's firmware instead. The board does 8000 Hz polling with scan rate that seems to be also 8000 Hz. However, on the beta firmware, so the firmware version 60, there is a feature called focus mode that changes things a bit. This is also on the Venom 60 HE, and I tested the effects of this new mode with that as well. But basically what focus mode does is that it ups the scan rate of the selected keys up to 10 keys at a time and reduces the scan rate of other keys that are not selected. This then affects the latency numbers somewhat. Okay, so the Venom TKL HE on the base form without focus mode clocks in at a respectable 1.08 milliseconds on average, which is the lowest real TKL Hall effect keyboard latency. Then with focus mode, the selected keys are turbocharged to numbers as low as 0.7 milliseconds on average, which makes those keys perform pretty much the same as the Wooding 80 HE and the Venom 60 HE all across the board. The numbers of keys that focus mode is applied to, whether it's 1 or 10, did not seem to affect the results at all, and the non-selected keys on the TKL measured then 2.19 milliseconds on average. On the Venom 60 HE, focus mode lowers the latency of the selected keys up to 10 keys to really low 0.49 milliseconds value, and the non-selected keys are then performing at a 1.08 milliseconds value, which is the same as the TKL version without focus mode, which is coincidental. But yeah, if you care about the lowest latency numbers, the focus mode is something you could try, and based on my tests, you should just go ahead and select 10 keys straight away if you choose to use the focus mode, since whether it's 1 or 10 keys, it doesn't really matter. But overall, I think the Tiger Lite gaming with the Venom TKL PCB is insanely good value if you already have things like keycaps and loop for your stabilizers. The base kit is just $85, and I would definitely advise you to get some JERRORRs here as well, which up the price to around $128, which is still really good. Then with the cheapest keycaps KBDFans has in stock, the total is around $187, not including shipping. This total package of the base kit, switches and keycaps for me as an European would however cost with import taxes around 260 euros, which is like 10 euros more than the Wooding 80 HE module with Geonworks switches, the cheapest keycaps and the Wooding plastic case. And the Wooding 80 HE is still performing better in terms of latency overall, but things to consider are the 80 HE is not a real TKL layout, the Venom firmware allows for lower dead zone and rapid trigger adjustments, and granted the KBDFans keycaps we chose for the kits are gonna be a bit better quality and nicer to look at. But we could go back and forth with these things and there would be no end. Which one is better? There is no real answer to that. Both are really, really good. But that is all. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one. Goodbye.